Hey, Texas Study students. This is Coach Science, welcoming you back to another one of our video lessons. Today's video lesson is Chapter 10.1 and the Battle of the Alamo. Now, we left off in Chapter 9 with the tensions, and here we're going to start talking about the Revolution of Texas. Now, after his defeat in San Antonio, Cos was retreated back to Mexico City, and Santa Anna led a large army north into Texas, right? Now, what he wanted to do, and here we see Santa Anna pictured right here, what he wanted to do was reestablish Texas under Mexican control, and he wanted to rid Texas of any and all Anglo and Tejano rebels against Mexican authority. Now, after the army of the people had defeated General Cos in San Antonio in the year 1835, unfortunately, they took a step back and they just kind of chilled out and relaxed. They knew that Cos was headed back down to Mexico City, but they did not know that Santa Anna was coming up to Texas. Now, since Texans were unaware that Santa Anna was leading an army to Texas, their forces remained unorganized and scattered. Now, they believed that he would wait until springtime to launch an attack on Texans. Now, when they had defeated General Cos in San Antonio, it was December. It was right in the middle of winter. It's one of the coldest times of the year, right? So they didn't think that Santa Anna was going to march his troops up north through Mexico and into Texas in the harshest part of the year through the winter and put his troops in danger. Now, there were two main roads that led into Texas from Mexico. Now, these are important because these were the roads that Santa Anna was going to have to take with his troops to lead them to the Texans. Now, these roads were also important to the Texans because these were the roads that they were going to have to end up guarding and protecting from the Mexican troops. The first road was called Old San Antonio Road, right? Or they also known it as El Camino Real, right? And this was guarded by Colonel Neal of the Texas Army. Here in this map, we see a picture of the Old San Antonio Road, or the Camino Real, which starts right here in Guerrero and travels up into San Antonio, right? And cuts all the way through, turns into from the black to the red, all the way into Louisiana. This was the road that Santa Anna was going to have to take to reach the Texans. The next road we're going to talk about is the Atascosito Road that passed through Goliad, which was guarded by Colonel James Fannin. Here in this map, we see the Atascosito Road, which enters almost down here by Brownsville, Matamoros in Tamaulipas, comes all the way up, Goliad's right around here, and leads across the coastline into the southern part of Louisiana. And here we see the Camino Real / Old San Antonio Road, where Colonel Neal was, and then down here, which is Goliad, where Colonel Fannin was. Now, in January of 1836, Santa Anna sent General Urrea's troops up the Atascosito Road, while he took his army through the Camino Real, or the Old San Antonio Road, up to San Antonio. Now, Colonel Neal fortified the Alamo with 21 cannons. Yes, that's exactly right. That's a lot of cannons, 21 cannons, but only had 30 men to defend the Alamo, which wasn't very many. Now, here you see a picture of the Alamo and how it originally looked like. Now, when you go to San Antonio nowadays and you see the actual dome shape and how it's finished, that's not how it originally was. If you remember, San Antonio, the Alamo, right? It was actually a mission. It was Mission San Antonio de Valero, right? But they actually never really finished the roof. So that's why it looked like this, right? So because it was a mission, it was right in the path of where Santa Anna needed to go through to find the Texans. So Colonel Neal, what he did was he made it into a makeshift fort to defend this road, Camino Real, from Santa Anna and his troops. Now we're going to look at some of the main defenders of the Alamo. We discussed James Bowie a little bit in chapter 9 when we heard about him in the grass fight. Now, James Bowie reached San Antonio with orders from Sam Houston to destroy the Alamo. Now, if you remember, Sam Houston was the general of the Texans army, and what he wanted was, he did not want for Santa Anna to take over the Alamo and for him and his army, the Mexican army, to use it against the Texans. So that's why he ordered for it to be destroyed. However, Bowie and Colonel Neal decided to stay and defend the old San Antonio Road and the Alamo. Here we see a picture of James Bowie, and one of the things that he was very famous for was that big knife that he always carried around. The next defender that we're going to talk about today is William Barret Travis, which we see a very nice drawing and painting of him here. Now, Governor Henry Smith and the Provisional Government of Texas had asked William Barret Travis to recruit 100 men and lead them to the San Antonio to support Colonel Neal and to defend the Alamo. Now, unfortunately, he wasn't able to recruit as many men as the Provisional Government of Texas had wanted. He was only able to recruit 29 men and arrived at the Alamo on February 3rd. Now, think about this. As all this is going on, Santa Anna and his men are marching closer and closer to the Alamo each and every day. The next defender we're going to talk about is David Crockett, or also known as Davy Crockett. Now, David Crockett was a former colonel and Congress member of Tennessee. Now, he wasn't even a Texan. He came from Tennessee because he heard the opportunity that there was for people in Texas. Now, he arrived at the Alamo with 12 men on February 8th. Here you see a picture of Davy Crockett. Now, on February 23rd of 1836, Santa Anna began a 13-day siege of the Alamo, where he bombarded it with cannonballs each and every day. Now, if you remember, a siege, right? A siege was a lengthy attack on a fortified place, which is a fort. And here in this picture, you see the fort of San Antonio, right? Or what was the makeshift fort of the Alamo. Okay? He bombarded it with cannonballs every single day and night. Now, he raised a red blood flag that was a symbol of no mercy. Santa Anna was not going to have any mercy for anybody coming out of the fort. He was not going to say, okay, you can surrender now. No, he was going to kill anybody and everybody. Now, by March 5th, about 1,800 Mexican troops surrounded the Alamo. As Santa Anna's attack grew more and more each and every day, William B. Travis immediately wrote a letter to try and recruit more soldiers from Gonzales. This was known as the Travis letter, right? Now, this letter is known as the most heroic document in Texas history because he says that he is neither going to surrender or give up to Santa Anna, right? Because he is so passionate about Texas and his stance here, right? So he writes at the end of his letter, right here, as you can see it in bold, give me victory or give me death. That is why it is known as the most historic document in Texas, because he was not going to give up. He was not going to give up. It's either he was going to die, he was going to die trying, or die in the battle for a victory. Now, it was said that as William B. Travis read this letter out loud to the people of the Alamo, He drew a line in the sand to see who would join him. All but one of the Alamo defenders and the soldiers at the Alamo joined him, right? And once he sent that letter out, they received some help. Not what exactly they were looking for, but they received 32 good men from Gonzales to help support William B. Travis and the soldiers and the defenders of the Alamo. Now, following the 13-day siege, Santa Anna and his troops attacked the Alamo at night, and as this attack was coming, the defenders shouted, "The Mexicans are coming! The Mexicans are coming!" Now, unfortunately, only 90 minutes after the attack began, all 189 Anglo and Tejano defenders of the Alamo were killed. Among the dead were James Bowie, William B. Travis, and Davy Crockett. Now, although Santa Anna said that he was not going to spare any lives and kill everybody, he did. Now, Santa Anna spared the lives of children, African American slaves, and women like Susanna Dickinson. It's because of women like Susanna Dickinson that we see here that we actually have some of the writings and historical accounts of what happened at the Alamo, right? Now, Santa Anna released them to tell other Texans that he was coming to drive all Texans out of Texas. So his plan to release these women, slaves, and children was so that they could go and spread the news that he was coming and that he was coming to make sure that all Texans were out of his Mexico. Now, this concludes our lesson on chapter 10.1, the Battle of the Alamo and the beginning of the Texas Revolution. This is Coach Signs, signing out.